we're profiling content creators on the channel that are either in support of the Alberta independence movement, or I believe potentially will be in support of the Alberta independence movement. Today, we're talking about David from Moose on the Loose.
And especially now that things seem to be heating up with the Alberta independence movement, but also with the potential of a snap election called by Mark Carney to get more seats, of course, we're going to continue to see more information coming out from the mainstream media, from the media that is subsidized basically by the federal government, and with just one side of the story and one narrative, which is why it is imperative and very important to start watching and listening and getting different information from independent sources, independent content creators, independent news sources as well. And unfortunately in Canada, they have been hamstrung and they have been censored by the federal government itself for telling too much truth and different opinions.
Yeah, I would say now more than ever, it's going to be important for independent content creators to kind of hold the line. The national government and Mark Carney is trying to turn national conservatives against the independence movement. And I think the independence movement is where these true Canadian values still lie. I think Canada no longer has those values, or they're fastly losing those values. So far, Daniel Smith has been able to kind of hold the line, that delicate line between nationalists and independence movement, by kind of blazing a path for this vote to even take place. Poilievre, on the other hand, just gave a statement the other day, and it looks like he's firmly coming down on the national side because he knows the snap election is going to be called. I don't think it's going to necessarily work out for him too well. Man, I mean, I was shocked. We had just made a video on Pierre Poilievre that day. We edited it, we got it out the door, and then he made that freaking statement like, I'm a nationalist. Everybody in the caucus are nationalist Canadians. We want to hold Canada together. I mean, I was surprised. I said in that video, if Pierre Poilievre turns his back on the Alberta independence movement, I was turning my back on him. He hasn't completely turned his back, but he's definitely headed in that direction, and I don't like it.
And there's also those rumors about the Conservative Convention where certain content creators that do speak up positively about Alberta independence, not just giving the information, but actually supporting it, might not have been as welcome as in other years. So there's also that.
Well, it was also a bit of an elitist conservative convention they had. It was like $1,800 or something like that to get in. It wasn't for your average conservative. They wanted to keep the independence movement content creators kind of out of it. They literally denied Marty up north, telling him he is following the independence movement a little too much for them, which is crazy to me.
But let's see what Moose on the Loose, or David, has to say about the problems in Alberta.
Yeah, and he is born and bred in Alberta, so this is an Albertan content creator. His family is from there. I know his family supports the independence movement. He said it on his show once or twice.
We've got some ridiculous news coming out of Alberta. We've got First Nations suing the government of Alberta because of the separatist movement. They're suing Daniel Smith's government. It's ridiculous. I mean, we've got money coming from America. This is big donors, NGOs, American billionaires funding some of these First Nation groups, including in Alberta, and then complaining about people being pissed off that, that there's a separatist movement. You can't make this stuff up. Check out this. Got some nice scenery here. And while this is a hurdle that Daniel Smith will have to deal with, this is also a problem for Mark Carney, because he has to somehow navigate this, because it's up to his minister to also help kind of quell the separatist movement. And well, they're the ones inflaming it because, well, I mean, the Liberals have been destroying Canada for 10 years now. There's a clip on CTV of two of these guys being interviewed by Vasi Kapelos where they say that they allowed colonization. They gave the go-ahead back then. I don't think that's really how history went, but I can only imagine this is going to inflame the whole First Nations reconciliation debate that's been going on for, well, a long time now.
There's going to be a lot of issues coming up. I think Pierre Poilievre is going to have a lot of issues here because he's come down on the side of what seems to be nationalist Canada. What the next question Mark Carney is going to ask is, well, the First Nation tribes think Alberta is theirs. What do you think about them and the independence movement? And this is, again, going to drive a fissure between Poilievre and different demographics of voters, and he's just going to shed votes.
And as the federal government has been doing for the longest time, they will continue to try to use First Nations to their benefit and to make their own points and get their own way, as they have been doing for the longest time too.
Yeah, good on David for like highlighting what's going on in Alberta.
But let's see David tell us himself where he's from and how he feels about it.
Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got full-blown revolt coming from Alberta after Mark Carney's phony baloney pipeline. I'm an Albertan born and raised, and I can tell you the people of Alberta are not gullible to Mark Carney's 600% carbon tax increase pipeline MOU memorandum agreement that will never get built.
Well, even if it does get built, it's not enough at this point. If they hand them a pipeline, it's like handing them $5 into their hand and taking $105 out of their back pocket with all the carbon taxes and everything else they're going to try to hamstring Alberta with. I mean, Alberta has been under attack for well over 100 years when it comes to the federal government.
And that's the thing for any province. I would even say anything the federal government might be able to offer or try to give to stop them from either separating or being as angry or upset or sick and tired of them as they have been isn't going to be enough. And for Alberta, that decision has already been made by most of the people who have been personally affected by the decisions of the federal Liberal government for the past more than 10 years.
Well, I kind of disagree with you here. The federal government was able to stop one province from separating. They give them almost $300 billion, and that's Quebec. Quebec's the one province I think if they do separate, I don't know if they're going to be able to stand on their own 2 feet because they've taken so much from the federal government, and the federal government has just handed it over because they have so many Liberal voters. That's how they keep Canada Liberal, is through Quebec, and they don't want to see Quebec go, so they seem to hand them anything they can, hand over fist. Well, they tell Albertans they're a bunch of traitors and you aren't going anywhere. I'd be like, if Mark Carney gets a majority government, he's going to try to pass some legislation where Alberta can't even get this vote. I'm almost sure of it. That's why he wants a snap election before Alberta gets their independence election.
And as I mentioned in the beginning, David, or Moose on the Loose, has been covering different and important aspects and vectors of the Alberta independence movement. And I do encourage other content creators to do the same.
Yeah, it's very important that like these content creators that have big national Canadian audiences kind of stand strong with the independence movement, because we kind of want to bridge that gap. I don't want a divide to kind of form there. I think Carney's going to force a divide with Pierre Poilievre and probably Danielle Smith as well. Content creators are in a special space where they'll hopefully be able to hold that line and really bridge the gap between nationalists and the independence movement.
When people can't afford food. So they shouldn't be surprised when they're seeing stuff like this. There's a new report that's come out showed that 42% of 18 to 35-year-olds now support Alberta becoming an independent country in Canada. This is coming from Research Co., which we have right here. 3 in 10 Albertans open to.
And that's 18 to 35-year-olds. That's the youth. That's the future of Alberta. That's the future of Canada. And when I say the future of Alberta, I'm saying the future of Albertans, not immigrants being forced in there and saying this is the new future of Canada or Alberta.
Independence from Canada. In the online survey of a representative national sample, 31% of Albertans support Alberta becoming an independent country from Canada, up 9% from a similar poll they did in June of 2023. It says 3 in 5 Albertans, or 62%, are opposed to independence, which has dropped by 9%. 7% are undecided. It says 2 in 5 Albertans aged 18 to 34, 42% support Alberta becoming its own country, and that's up 15%, which is huge. The proportions are lower among those aged 35 to 54, 27%, it's up 2, and those aged 55 and over is 25% plus 9. Goes on to say separatist feelings rose across 3 major regions of the province. More than 3 in 10 residents of the...
And yeah, he's been covering this from the beginning. This is a little bit older of a video, but this is typical of his coverage of the Alberta independence movement. So I thought this was a good video to show.
Calgary metropolitan area, 31% plus 5 voice support for Alberta independence, along with 29% of Edmonton plus 5 and 34% of those who live elsewhere in the province plus 11. You're not seeing a lot of negative numbers here at all. The only negative we saw here is this one, where people who are opposed is dropping. It goes on to say that UCP voters are in favor of independence. This is a real movement here, and this is a real problem for Mark Carney, especially he got it from the Bloc as well, or Quebec, and you're seeing this from Saskatchewan.
I could definitely see Mark Carney continuing to push this issue. He doesn't have a majority government, so it's hard for him to pass any legislation, but if he can back Pierre Poilievre into a corner, and Pierre Poilievre's already kind of picket the national side, and if he says we need unity to stop these separatist movements, whether it's Quebec or Alberta, there's a good chance Pierre Poilievre completely turns his back on this. And if he does, it's going to be a damn shame.
And also with those numbers that even he showed there, the young people versus the older Albertans, it is very important to take into account and look at the youth and what they're saying and saying, I don't see hope in staying with Canada, and they're the ones that have been feeling it the most as well, while the older maybe Albertans that might be less inclined to agree with separation have benefited in the long run from what the federal government has been able to, the little crumbs they've been able to offer them.
Well, it seems like the older voters are really motivated. They know that they'll never see this kind of come to fruition. They're so old. I mean, we got a lot of older people that watch this channel that are in support of the Alberta independence movement. The thing is, the young vote is what matters, because if this vote goes the wrong way, they're going to go to the U.S. The U.S. already has a visa kind of ready and set for blue-collar workers if they want to come down. And the exact kind of person they're looking for are these blue-collar workers from Alberta.
And yeah, then there is that segment of older voters that do support the Alberta independence movement because they remember what Alberta used to be like. And
what Canada used to be like.
Canada used to be like. And they've seen the destruction of their own country in real time. And they, I hope, they'll also see and consider that the youth are also the ones that have been most affected by the decisions taken by the Liberals, the federal government, Trudeau, and now Carney.
And good on David for shining light on the Alberta independence movement every step of the way, and all the other content creators that are doing it as well.
But before you go, please don't forget to subscribe. We will continue to cover and give updates about the Alberta independence movement, and also join us live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.